heights I've never seen. Too many falling down off their feet. These stories take digging deep. Eyes wide open, words unspoken. Where are you going, darling? Where have you been? Stories to tell, emotions we felt, good and the bad in the hands we've been dealt. I wanna know why, I wanna know why you're the way you are. Why you're the way you are. Why you're the way you are. Tiptoe around with face of a stranger. Quiet observer, never get too close. I see the world, but it's through this window. Another side to see, I'm ready to know. Not every story's written on a sleeve. Some stories take digging deep. Eyes wide open, words unspoken. Where are you going, darling? Where have you been? Stories to tell, emotions we felt, good and the bad in the hands we've been dealt. I wanna know why, I wanna know why you're the way you are. He's from the city, she's from the south. Two different chapters told miles out. The back row living in his White House. So many stories that I need to know. Not every story's written on a sleeve. Some stories take digging deep. Eyes wide open, words unspoken. Where are you going, darling? Where have you been? Stories to tell, emotions we felt, good and the bad in the hands we've been dealt. I wanna know why you're the way you are. So many stories right in front of me. Some people climb to heights I've never seen. Too many falling down off their feet. These stories take digging deep. Eyes wide open, words unspoken. Where are you going, darling? Where have you been? Stories to tell, emotions we felt, good and the bad in the hands we've been dealt. I wanna know why to heights I've never seen. Too many falling down off their feet. These stories take digging deep. Eyes wide open, words unspoken. Where are you going, darling? Where have you been? Stories to tell, emotions we felt, good and the bad in the hands we've been dealt. I wanna know why, I wanna know why you're the way you are. Why you're the way you are. Why you're the way you are. Tiptoe around with face of a stranger. Quiet observer, never get too close. I see the world, but it's through this window. Another side to see, I'm ready to know. Not every story's written on a sleeve. Some stories take digging deep. Eyes wide open, words unspoken. Where are you going, darling? Where have you been? Stories to tell, emotions we felt, good and the bad in the hands we've been dealt. I wanna know why, I wanna know why you're the way you are. He's from the city, she's from the south. Two different chapters told miles out. The back row living in his White House. So many stories that I need to know. Not every story's written on a sleeve. Some stories take digging deep. Eyes wide open, words unspoken. Where are you going, darling? Where have you been? Stories to tell, emotions we felt, good and the bad in the hands we've been dealt. I wanna know why you're the way you are. So many stories right in front of me. Some people climb to heights I've never seen. Too many falling down off their feet. These stories take digging deep. Eyes wide open, words unspoken. Where are you going, darling? Where have you been? Stories to tell, emotions we felt, good and the bad in the hands we've been dealt. I wanna know why you're the way you are. Why you're the way you are. Why you're the way you are. Tiptoe around with face of a stranger. Quiet observer, never get too close. I see the world, but it's through this window. Another side to see, I'm ready to know. Not every story's written on a sleeve. Some stories.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Wednesday Wham, Silverline style. We have a very, very special show tonight. But before we go into what we're going to talk about, I'd like to thank our producer, Carlos, who makes this show possible with his technical expertise. And I'd also like to thank our sponsors, Daytona Beach Comic Convention. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome a fellow traveler, a journeyman, a brother of sorts, Mr. Scott Wakefield, also known as Swake to some. He's back.
Wait.
Tell us where you've been, Scott. Catch us all up, my friend. Nice.
I have been everywhere. My son and I just completed a cross-country trip, literal cross-country. We went to the Atlantic Ocean, found our way north of Boston with my good cousin Adam, and we jumped in the ocean on a beautiful July day, and it was 55 degrees and raining sideways in Massachusetts.
Nice.
And we jumped in. Had a great time there. Turned around, made it back to West Virginia for a family reunion. Then we're joined by friends in West Virginia, and then we followed what is called the Transamerica Trail, and it's a network of gravel and dirt roads that goes that a gentleman named Sam Carrera, I think is his last name. I'm sorry if it's not. He has mapped out this trail, and it's designed for motorcycles, but 4x4s and all this sort of stuff enjoy it. And we took our car. My buddy took his 30-year-old Toyota pickup. We followed the trail. For the most part, we hopped on pavement and back and forth to make up some time. But West Virginia, and my geography is going to be all off. West Virginia, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina.
Yep. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, Kansas is flat. Nebraska is just like flat.
And that's where we parted ways with our friends. They went their own way, and my son and I headed east. And 4 days later, we were back in Western New York. And yes, Barb, coming out of Idaho, right, and it comes down into Utah, right? We're north of Salt Lake, and then into Nebraska, and it's just everything just levels out in Nebraska, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio. So much flatness, but the country, the United States is an amazing place, and it spans so much landscape. Utah, I've never been to Utah, but Utah blew me away. We were near Moab. Talk about, everybody knows that's like the 4x4 and off-road mecca, and rightly so. It was stunning. I've never seen landscape like that, and of course the Rockies. We didn't get up super high. I know Colorado has 14,000 feet. They've got like their 14ers, I think, or something like they call that. But we crested. We got almost to 11,000 feet before we started making our way back downhill. But we had a great trip. It was exhausting.
You didn't get into Montana then?
No, I've been to Montana before. When we moved to Alaska, drove across Montana one way, then the other on our way home. And yeah, Western Montana, all mountains and beautiful, but then Eastern Montana, just like Eastern Oregon, I've never seen. And if Tim, our former producer, and he does the Tuesday show, he's an Oregoner, And I know the Western Oregon is very much what everybody sees and thinks of as Oregon is the tall pines and the rain and the fog. And then Eastern Oregon is very brown and flat, beautiful, and rugged, but sparse. And we saw a lot of amazing stuff. I can give thumbs ups to if you travel KOAs, those campgrounds. They've got it going on. The showers and Wi-Fi, and one of them had a game room with bowling and TVs, and
Wow.
and if you camp, I think it was $35, $38, and we had a tent. And we slept in the car in a tent, and a lot of state parks, national parks as well. Just beautiful. So it was about a month that I was on the road, and I had a great time. I'm happy to be back. Missed
Awesome.
everybody out there. Missed all the chatter. I've been trying to catch up a little bit, watch some of the shows, but I am way behind. So if I say something we've already talked about, I apologize. And as you can see, Scott, we've covered that. We've moved on. If there's anything we need to cover, let me know. And Dean, thank you so much. I feel bad swooping in. You've been doing a great job. So I don't know. You might be the new host. I don't know.
No, I had a great time. It was a fun opportunity. We got to review a lot of books, and we actually did the Steam Patriots coverage and got into it. It was sad not to have you here, but we covered a lot of ground, a lot of wonderful launches. We just had Champion and Miss Fury and Bea most recently launched, and everything went. We were successful with Kickstarters, and we're just pushing on. The Silverline Express keeps on going, my friend. So we don't stop for anyone.
Keeps growing. Yeah, I tried to follow along with the campaigns as best I could. A lot of evenings we didn't have, unless we were at the KOA, but we didn't have a signal. Sometimes we'd be off in the middle of nowhere, and I would tell my wife if she doesn't hear from me in the evening, it's because we drove out of signal coverage, and I had no way to let her know that. So I'd let her know, try to let her know where we're going. A couple nights we were off in the middle of nowhere, which was fantastic. But no way to let anybody know where we were. So if we disappeared or were eaten by bears, no one would have known.
Well, tonight I thought it might be fun, and I was given the honor of choosing the subject matter this evening, and I chose literary archetypes, and we're going to be discussing how they relate not only to well-known mainstream characters in the wider publishing comic book universe, but definitely our own characters and how they relate to the better-known characters, which gives viewers and listeners a doorway into, well, maybe if I like this character, I might really like that character as well. But what I thought we'd start with are two very well-known characters. I'm just going to throw them out there because, Scott, I know you're going to love this. It's Iron Man and Captain America.
I've heard of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I
I've heard of
thought
those
it
guys.
might be fun, since I know you're a big Iron Man fan, and Barbara is a huge Tony Stark Iron Man fan as well. And just let you guys sort of expand on the archetype you think Iron Man is, and then relate that back to your own characters, either as a foil or as a source or springboard. Why don't you get us started tonight, Scott?
So we're going to start with Iron Man.
Yeah.
And archetypes, I think maybe here, I'm going to define an archetype here for all of our
Yes, that's a good idea.
all of our viewers. And so let's see, the internet, Oxford English Dictionary says a very typical example of a certain person or thing, or a recurrent symbol or motif in literature. So in the writing world, in the story world rather, an archetype is someone who fills a role generally, and they can be. We talked about this quite a bit in our discussions of character creation and so forth, from how two-dimensional to well-rounded they can be. And in the comic book world, comic books and in the pulp fiction world, there are a lot of more two-dimensional characters. And it was an easy, you pick up a book, you're like, oh, he's the hero, he's the this, he's the that, this is the villain, and you can get through the story. And there are still lots of stories like that. But in the comic book world, they have expanded well beyond just that. The basic archetype of filling the hero, the villain, the sidekick. And we talked about that a lot too with sidekicks.
Yes.
How sidekicks were very often meant to just be someone for the hero to talk to, and to point out their flaws, or sometimes just be somebody that the hero needed to rescue, that they'd get in trouble, or they would rescue the hero.
Or they could expound to.
Exactly. And in writing, it's unless you're really good, it's hard to leave your heroes alone. In the comic book world or the literature world, the prose world, leaving your hero alone, that means you either have to be in their head, or they have to talk out loud to themselves for no reason, or for some weird reason, or there needs to be a narrator. So sidekicks gave them an opportunity to have somebody to talk to, and that sidekick would usually fill a role where they would be a different archetype or point toward, and Dean, I think you said this, point toward their flaws.
Yes.
Toward the hero's flaws, and point in that like, I mean, Lego Batman, which I think might be the best Batman movie made. Lego Batman, when Robin shows up, they have to point out that Batman can't be solo. He's got to have a family. He can't be the all by himself and brooding and angry all the time. So in that world, yes, they're two-dimensional, and they fit an archetype. But the archetype is a way to kind of classify the role they fill. And then from there, when you're creating a character, you can go beyond that, and it's kind of like a foundational from, if you had to put them in what's those CGBI, or what's the Myers, Briggs and Stratton?
INSV.
Yeah. The personality traits. It's a way to help you define your character, and it's good. People think you might be putting your character into a box and limiting that character, but that's not the case. Yeah, you could be, but a good writer or a good creator will start from there. I mean, just like we define ourselves, we could say, I am this, like, I like, either I'm defined by my job, or I'm a father, or something like that. And then you can go beyond that. Yes. And it's good, just like with a story Bible, where you define your story world and you define your characters, it keeps you from going from flying off course. So with Tony Stark or Captain America, you can define Captain America as he's going to do these things, which was really great because it created problems in Civil War. It created problems, tension between mostly him and Tony Stark, but others. And if he were to act contrary to his nature, to his archetype, it wouldn't make sense. But sometimes you can do that. Sometimes you can, if they act contrary to it, that might be surprising, or might make for interesting storytelling, or you wonder why they would do that. But in the story world, if they fill those roles, it makes the storytelling easier. It makes for the consumer of the story to understand, okay, this person's going to generally do this, be this role. So it helps the whole story world fit. So, okay, that was like a 10-minute answer, and I haven't even answered it yet. Iron Man, Tony Stark. I am just going to put him as the hero. The protagonist.
Could there be a secondary archetype as
well?
Oh my. For Tony Stark, let's see.
There's 3. He has 3 archetypes.
Okay. What do you got?
Well, going back to Cap, he's got one archetype. He's the warrior / hero.
Okay.
Tony Stark is a much more complicated
Yes.
character. He falls into the warrior / hero archetype, but he also falls into the creator / super genius
Ah.
archetype and the mentor archetype.
Mm-hmm.
That's very good. And
Mm-hmm.
through his development, he did not start necessarily as a mentor.
No, but he
No.
grew into that.
Yes.
He's probably got I would say the best affinity for young, up and coming superheroes, teens than anybody else on the Avengers. He really seems to click, maybe because he's got a childish nature of his own, but he really seems to click with the younger set.
Yeah, and so I think because he seems like an unlikely mentor, at the beginning, if you were to watch the arc of his character,
Mm-hmm.
that makes for a very interesting character development because he's like you said, he's childish. He makes rash decisions. He would not be somebody that a parent would say, "Hey, go hang out with Tony Stark. He's a great example of what you should be like." So that's good storytelling to turn him into that.
Well, I think if being a mentor forces him to be an adult.
Yes. Iron Man 3, I like and don't like. I'm kind of iffy on Iron Man 3. I think they jumped the shark with all of his armor. And I know it's Iron Man and it's fantastical and all the wonderful things, but I kind of thought it was a little silly. But I thought, and this is not my original idea, I read a review somewhere where someone said it was if they could have renamed Iron Man 3 Tony Stark 1, because it was a great character development movie for Tony Stark. And there were good portions of the movie where he didn't have his armor. So it laid the foundation of him saying, he says it to, he says it to Cap, right? Or does he say it to Spider-Man, without the suit, you're nothing without the suit, right? Or does he see, that theme comes up a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, and he proves that he is Iron Man with or without the suit. But I'm also talking about the comics. You see, in the comics, he has a long string of youngsters that follow him around, and as he really does kind of fulfill a parental role in many respects for a lot of these kids. And if you, as a parent, learned a long time ago that when you have kids, all of a sudden you are forced to give up your child.
Everything.
Yes. Yes, and you have to grow up and be responsible, even if you don't want to, and it's very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as his character developed through the Marvel universe, and not just the movies, but in the comic books, he has taken on several under his wing, and he's been forced to become responsible. So his character has developed and grown through his mentorship of these teens.
It reminds me of one of your characters, Barb. Would you like to share?
Oh, you mean Zach?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. He wants to just go out, and he's the typical warrior, and he still is at this point in time. He is the quintessential warrior hero type. And he was completely enjoying it. I mean, he's guns blazing and going out and being the hero, blah, blah, blah. Wanted to be a Marine for the rest of his life. And then all of a sudden he's saddled with an 11-year-old girl who, by the way, divinity would fall into two archetypes. That would be the child and the orphan. But so far, Zach is only one. He's still the warrior. He's growing into, the parental role, the caregiver. But he certainly doesn't. He's being drugged, kicking and screaming into it. He didn't want to be that way. He wanted to be a soldier all of his life, with all the glory and the guns blazing. And now he's got an 11-year-old sourpuss on his hands.
That makes for a very interesting storytelling with the dynamics. You've got a lot of archetypes and then sub-archetypes within your characters, and the way they interact with each other just makes the story just move. And then, of course, you have your female lead as well. Mm-hmm. And I would say she's similar to Zach.
Very similar. She falls into the warrior, but I think she also has a bit of the caregiver or mentor about her too, because mm-hmm. she's going to be the mentor to Divinity, and obviously she and Zach are going to share the caregiver roles. But yeah, she's mostly the warrior hero archetype, because we don't want to force her into a stereotypical role either. Oh, she's the woman. She's got to do all the cooking and cleaning and child raising. Nope. That's not going to happen.
Nope. I don't think that's been around for quite a while, actually. Yeah. Women are doing pretty much everything men can do, even better in stories these days. Scott, what about your character? What about your character in Steam Patriots?
So Felix?
Yes.
So he would be the we're talking the creator, right?
And a little bit of something else, I think.
Well,
the innocent, maybe.
Oh yeah, okay, I'll give you that. Yeah, because he's got a lot of room to grow. In the beginning, there's not a lot. I didn't get the chance to focus on, to showcase it very much. He's going to be kind of pompous, meaning he's a know-it-all, but he's also a kid. So he
isn't that the definition of
right? Yeah, he's a know-it-all teenager, and he's a smarty pants. So he's going to know better than everybody else, and he's going to have to learn. So that will come out more in the ensuing stories. So yeah, his innocence. He doesn't know. He doesn't know what he doesn't know. He doesn't know the scope of what's happening around him. It's not all cut and dry. Even so, the story takes place during the American Revolution, and it wasn't an easy decision for anybody to just say, we're just going to throw off the security of England. It sounds like, now in retrospect, everyone was like, yeah, we're going to do it. But it was a incredibly difficult decision. And so you had people on both sides, or people kind of right in the middle wanting to say, can we find a compromise? So he's going to have to learn to see different sides of the story and what's going on as well. So that will be part of his development. I don't want him to be two-dimensional. I don't want any of the characters to be two-dimensional in this story where us good, them bad kind of thing. So yeah, Ben Franklin, of course, is going to be the mentor sage for a while. If anybody knows, I'm not going to spoiler, but I am going to follow real history. Ben Franklin goes off to France for a good chunk of the war. So
he's an ambassador, isn't he?
Yes. So there's going to be a change there. Who that will create strife, of course, for Felix when his mentor leaves, and he'll have to figure that out and find. There's going to be somebody else. I don't want to give anything away. So those are the two main characters so far, other than his father. And I don't want to give things away for the role his father will play. And then there's villains, of course. Trying to think who else I can talk about without revealing the plot. Because in number one, it's Felix and his dad, General Howe, and Ben Franklin. Get a little George Washington, but George isn't going to.
Okay, I'll ask a question, and you can just say vaguely. Is there going to be a Joker archetype?
Okay. So
you don't have to say who it is. Just say yes or no.
Probably not. Like, not in a silly sense of I mean, kind of like Merry and Pippin in Lord of the Rings were kind of the
Mm-hmm.
jokers.
Very much.
They there's going to be a friend who will play the role of maybe literally but figuratively slapping Felix upside the head and bringing him back to reality.
Okay, so he's Samwise.
Yeah, he'll have a Samwise who will probably be a little bit more less serious than Felix, because Felix is going to be he's pretty serious right now. He'll have to lighten up. I don't know if that'll happen in the first story arc, but if Steam Patriots keeps going, Felix will grow up and he'll have plenty of room for growth and development, which is my goal here for him.
How about you, Dean, in your stories?
Yeah.
Let me hear your
Well,
archetypes.
I'll start by sort of bringing in a character we all know and then segueing to my characters. Let's talk about Batman for a bit. On first glance, we think, oh, typical hero, whatever, but not really. If you think about it, there are three archetypes at least in this character.
The orphan.
Obviously hero, obviously outlaw, but also lover. Okay, because the lover part, you may say, what? But the definition of the lover archetype is they're driven by their heart. Okay, so Batman likes to pride himself on the fact that he's cold, calculating, not emotional, but he's driven by vengeance, right? And this not being able to let go of that grief, right?
Mhm.
This loss
Well,
of
in
his
that
parents.
respect, he falls into the orphan archetype too,
He does fall into the orphan archetype as well. So,
driven by that experience.
right, he's more complex than one might, look at initially. So, that being my favorite character, I started to think about, if I were to do a similar character, what would I do? And my main character, I have two. They really share the spotlight pretty equally, but we'll start with Sam Blake. Sam Blake was a cavalry officer, very, very young officer during the latter part of the Civil War, and served in the U.S. Army and did lots of things that maybe he doesn't feel so great about, but he's carrying a lot of weight and guilt from that. But he's also carrying a lot of anger and frustration and grief because his wife is killed and his daughter is kidnapped by this secret society, and he's been tracking them. He literally just says, done, I'm retiring from the Army, this is what I'm doing now. So he tracks them to England. His persona that he projects is more of a bon vivant, more of a Bruce Wayne type of persona. He's
Scarlet Pimpernel.
very much so. He's a ladies' man. He is a consummate swordsman and also, fencing champion, as well as he was trained by Zorro himself, which comes up in the storyline. But he's got a lot of flaws that are not limited to hubris and also just single-mindedness, and he's not tempered. And so in that respect, we have an unbalanced character in a way, and I wanted to explore that in a leading character. He's not balanced. He's driven by this grief and this all-consuming goal to find who did this and make them pay. Very much an outlaw Josie Wales feel to it as well. And what I want to do is grow him through the story, and without giving anything away, he will take the next stage from vengeance-filled warrior to more of a balanced individual that understands that you can't just live on that anger. You have to let it go, and you have to notice there are other things in life, and justice takes its time, but justice does happen. So it really was the fact I was inspired a lot by Batman. And also there's a little bit of Azrael in there for those of you who remember the Azrael character from the 90s, in terms of the single-mindedness, almost to the point of obsession, dangerous obsession, and a sort of myopic view of the world. But we're going to bring him out of that. The other character, Elizabeth Dane, she is, again, a combination of explorer and hero and outlaw, because she breaks the conventional rules of what she's supposed to be as a woman in Victorian England. Her father being a wealthy, globe-trotting adventurer who has disappeared, with her pseudo-uncle, Alan Quatermain, a well-known adventurer in British literature. And she loves and hates Alan because she blames Alan for the disappearance and possible death of her father. But she wants so desperately to be like them and to break the boundaries of Victorian convention as far as what a woman is expected to do. So when we meet her in the series, she's doing what she loves, which is, turning all the offers for a date and a night on the town down to go explore in a dirty cave and find some cool antique. So we find out that she's untamable in terms of what she loves, her enthusiasm, her quest, so to speak, to show that not only can she equal her dad's exploits, but possibly best them. But when she does discover the sword, this ancient silver sword that's very, very unique, she is an amateur archaeologist herself and quickly finds out through testing that the sword is beyond just a regular sword. So she takes it to Quatermain, and they move the story further by we discover what the sword is and why silver defeats evil, etc. But as far as the archetype sides go, Sam and Elizabeth begin as one type of archetype and then transition and grow into a little bit different type of archetype. And because it's a story that has romance in it, they do become attached. But it's pretty fiery, so unexpected things happen.
Ooh la la.
So it's going to be fun.
Keep talking, Dean.
It's going to be fun. But yeah, so
I certainly hope so.
I'd say Batman, and really, for Elizabeth, she's closer to Lara Croft as far as if people wanted a mainstream icon to connect her to. But
And that
there's
would be,
a lot of,
she would fall into the rebel.
yeah, she's an outlaw, definitely.
The rebel / outlaw.
Mm-hmm. She's also very brilliant. So there's a little sage in there. She has the potential, even in some ways, she's a mentor because she brings Sam out of this cloud of vengeance and back into a world where there's room for romance and there's room for other things besides just cold-blooded vengeance.
You're gonna have to be very careful to walk the line between an interesting character and a Mary Sue with her.
She's got flaws. You'll see them right at the beginning. She pushes people away, and she's also very resentful of Alan Quatermain and the so-called heroes of the day. We meet Abraham Van Helsing, and he's definitely a mentor, as is Alan. But when we meet the luminary knights in the Order of Sacred Silver, we come to know these people a little bit better. Some you know from literature, some you don't. Some you're surprised that they're part of that order, like Zorro. But you come to find out that they've made a lot of mistakes as well, and made missteps. There's no perfect individuals in this story. They're all completely flawed, and I wanted to do that on purpose. Even though I have a great affinity for characters like Captain America, and who is the consummate Boy Scout, and even Superman, I think it's much more interesting to show that it's a struggle to stick to that line. It's a struggle to write it, but it's also a struggle for the character themselves to hold that line of the virtuous Boy Scout, because nobody can.
No, you can't.
And they fall.
Yeah, the higher they are, the farther they fall. I have a curious question that
Yes.
has nothing to do with that, but did you have to do some research to be able to get use characters that were in the public domain?
Yes, I did. I absolutely did. Yes.
Yes, because something like Zorro has to be in the public domain, and Van Helsing.
Zorro is done in flashback. Quartermain is active in the story. Van Helsing is active in the story. And there may be some potential other characters that you've met in literature, possibly some connections to Frankenstein and Dracula that you've met before.
And they are all in the public domain now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's actually really, really fascinating and fun, because who can I find that's in the public domain now?
Yeah. It's fun. There were a lot more than I thought.
Oh yeah.
The trickiest one was Zorro, because that one's contested. So I decided to use that much more in a quick flashback and not make that character a major character. But you've got Quartermain, you've got the cast of Frankenstein, the cast of Dracula. Just right there, you've got Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. You've got all these really cool classic literary characters.
Is Sherlock Holmes in the public domain now?
Yes.
Yes.
Ah.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, indeed.
So you never know who might show up in Silverblade.
Obviously, we didn't have to worry about Ben Franklin.
I had to check if he's public domain.
Is there an estate for these public figures, Scott,
that's
going to come out and go, "Hey, man, Franklin's my great grandpappy"?
That is an excellent question. I figure if people you can reenact and be Ben Franklin. I don't know. Maybe it's got to be available. Someone did make a comment a long time ago when I started making the story. As if I wouldn't, but they said, "Don't do anything stupid with these people. They've got they have descendants. They've got great grandkids and all that." And of course, which is why I've said this multiple times. I'm going to follow history as close as I can, because I don't want to take away from any real person's real accomplishments. So I look for a lot of history where it's kind of foggy or hazy, or there's no record of it.
You don't want to make Ben a pedophile or something.
Well,
that would really raise some hackles.
Full respect to the founding fathers, guys.
I did say when Barb, when we were doing our Kickstarter, I was offering to have somebody drawn in. And my brother-in-law, Rick, ponied up, and he's going to get drawn in. But I never told him how he'd be drawn in. I said I'd give him some dialogue too. I said didn't say what you're going to be doing. So you have no recourse. Right. No, Rick will be drawn in, doing something awesome. I'll figure it out.
Blow him up in one of those.
Actually, I thought about that. I thought about
boiler accident.
Have him have a cannonball or something. I don't know.
I wanted to bring up a character, and again, this goes to Archetype as well, but it also brings up that pesky term alignment that we talked about before. Yes. That is a tangent to the Archetype. Let's talk a little bit about Wolverine. There's an interesting character there that has endured quite a long time. He was in every book for a while through the 90s and the early 2000s, but even now, partially because of the leading man casting of Hugh Jackman, but also because of the sort of what I call the cursed hero. Very much, I've always described Wolverine as a werewolf story in a way, because he's a technical werewolf rather than being cursed by a gypsy and the full moon and mysticism. He's cursed by being part of a government experiment that he had no choice in, and he does really, really nasty things, and he's really good at it, and he doesn't always feel great about his past.
He falls into the suffering hero type of role.
Is he an anti-hero, guys? I'd love to get y'all's take. Is he an anti-hero, or is he just a cursed hero? Where does Wolvie fall in all this?
Well, an anti-hero would be like Deadpool.
Lobo.
Deadpool or Lobo.
Deadpool, yeah.
Yeah, because they can be fairly unlikable in a lot of instances. I don't think Wolverine steps way clear over into that.
No.
I think he's the cursed or wounded hero. The suffering hero.
I agree, and I think he's seeking something that seems to be a theme in a lot of the blood-stained heroes that we've seen in the Marvel world, especially most recently with Black Widow as well as Wolvie. We have some characters that have killed a lot of people. Right?
And they angst.
Yes, they killed a lot of people. And so there's this almost driving need to, maybe I can do enough good to sort of wash myself clean a little bit. Do you guys get that feel from
the redemption arc?
Mm-hmm.
You go into the stereotypical redemption arc.
I don't know if he's going for redemption or revenge, but Punisher, he would be anti-hero, right? I mean, he kills without care.
Yeah, that's an anti-hero.
Yeah.
And somewhere along the way, some writer always turns them into the hero or the suffering hero when they start out as an anti-hero, and I think they lose a lot that way. They lose a lot of interesting qualities when they trying to turn a bad character good. Not a bad character, but slightly unlikable, walks the edge between good and bad, good and evil. I think that makes them more interesting. And then you flop them over completely into the good side and like, it's kind of bland now.
Well, it's usually, I'm kind of thinking out loud here, for the anti-hero, they usually think that the ends justify the means. As long as it might be morally ambiguous, but being the vigilante or whatever, killing the criminals, without them going to court, they know that if I kill these guys right now, I'm saving a lot of people a lot of money and time, and these guys won't hurt anybody in the meantime. Whereas, so that would be more of an anti-hero character description, or if they were where they generally, you could say, they're doing good, right?
But in a bad way,
right? Yeah. Whereas a police officer or someone who's following the law would round them up. But there's always this kind of, you're right. There's that line, that gray area. It makes it interesting. Dean, you said about the Boy Scout, the Captain America type character. Mm-hmm. That's interesting in the character side, that for that person to always do good when everyone else wants him to bend the rules or toe the line that everybody else is following or stepping up to. That's the interesting side of the character.
But then in that case, you really run the risk of becoming a self-righteous, bastard.
Yeah. It's I was listening to, on my long drive, The Way of Kings. Very, very long. I'm only in book 1, and I think there's supposed to be 10, and it was 44 hours of audio. So I don't know how many pages The Way of Kings, but there is a character, Dalinar, I think is his name. There's a lot of characters, and he follows an ancient set of rules. And so, Barb, like you said, so he thinks he is doing the right thing. And some could say, yes, he's sticking to the rules, and the rules will
but he becomes inflexible.
He becomes inflexible, and people say you are now lording it over the rest of us. You're on your high horse, and you look down on the rest of us. And when we won't, or for whatever reason, have trouble following the rules, and so that makes for interesting interplay. That character has to fight against the outside forces that want him to change, but then also fit in enough that he's not a jerk, or if he is a jerk, that's might be part of his character. So
They run the danger of becoming very unlikable.
yeah, yeah, and
John, I can hear feedback on your end.
There's something about their character that stops the room, because when you have a group standing around like the Avengers, right? When Cap walks in, it's interesting how everyone responds, right? And that tells you a lot because there's a sense of respect.
mm-hmm.
And again, it's not that Cap is perfect. It's that Cap tries harder to be perfect than anybody else. That's where it gets more difficult to write those heroes that are trying to be Boy Scouts. It's the same thing with Superman. People go, he's just so boring, it's whatever. It's like, well, maybe.
Because when they stumble, it's usually really interesting when they stumble, and it's usually a big stumble.
It is usually a big stumble, and the weight on Superman's shoulders, the writers that have explored that really do him justice in terms of, you could rule the world if you were Superman. And the fact that he remains a defender, he remains compassionate, he remains out of the way, allowing people to choose good and evil, not becoming like Dr. Doom, where he just says, I rule, and if you go against me, you're done. Which he could easily, but he doesn't. So it's that choice of doing the right thing, because doing the right thing is difficult. Now, how do you make that a sexy fireworks show like a comic book? That's where the good writing comes in. You have to know how to do that. I think Civil War did a great job with that. I think a Black Widow does a good job with struggling against what does it really mean to be a hero, because Black Widow goes from being an assassin, a villain, to being part of the Avengers, right? And so that huge jump is addressed in the film and addressed in a lot of the series and the comics. And so how do you guys feel about whether that's done successfully? Is it believable? Do we believe Natasha? Or do we keep waiting for her to go back into villainhood like I always do with the White Queen, like Emma Frost here? Whatever. She's never a good guy. Sorry, never a good guy.
Well,
But,
it's like, as far as the Black Widow is concerned, when you move forward and learn new things, you can never really go back. We see that she was raised in an atmosphere where there weren't any rules of or morals.
there was no moral compass.
There were no moral compass, and she was raised to believe that people die and that's okay. And in fact, it's laudable if you can accomplish your mission. So when you're raised like that, you can't really blame the person for being the way they are, because they don't know any better. But then if you learn that isn't right, and if you stick to that learning, then you are progressing in your own growth and learning that the difference between good and evil. If you choose to disregard that learning, that's a problem. If you choose to embrace the learning, as the Black Widow did, and learn that everything she knew when she was growing up wasn't the end all and be all of the world, she grows as a character, and she grows in her morality.
I agree. Go ahead. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, no, not that I'm aware of. But so that brings me to another character similar to Black Widow in a way on the DC side, and that's Catwoman. What do you guys think about Selena Kyle? Because she's been written along the lines of the archetype / alignment of Black Widow in terms of, she had a rough childhood. She did a lot of things that maybe she regrets, but in a lot of ways, she still justifies amoral behavior. You guys chime in on that for me. I'd love to hear your take on Selena Kyle. Hey, John.
Hey, y'all. Sorry, grocery run after work took a little longer than expected.
No, we're just glad you're here.
It's at the halfway point too, so or the 9 o'clock Eastern time here. Folks out there, we're talking archetypes, character archetypes, and we're talking mainstream comics and movies and literature, and how the roles that they fill and how that can be beyond a two-dimensional character and make them interesting. And we're also, John, applying them to the characters in our stories. So don't hesitate to talk about your stories, John. What was that? What were you saying? Oh, Catwoman. And you talked about her justifying her actions, and I always like that when we can get a villain, and the reader, the consumer, can see that villain and say, I see why they're doing it. I can see, if, I might do that. I always like villains like that. I think that's very interesting, rather than they're just a bad guy who grew up bad and is angry about everything and just bad. I like you find out why he or she has been wronged. Maybe that he tried.
Justified?
Yeah, maybe he tried. Really, really tried, and then just got kicked down, or just it didn't. I find those much more interesting characters. So
if you said to go ahead and jump in, so if you don't mind me jumping in, I don't disagree with you on that. And in my earlier comic book reading days, I really did enjoy that, where you got to see that other side of them.
Yeah.
If you take a look in media, that's becoming very prevalent these days.
Yeah.
Though. Where, Cruella, we did not need a Cruella movie.
No.
Okay? She wanted to kill and skin puppies.
Right.
She's evil. She's bad.
I'm not saying...
Emma Stone, gorgeous. I'd love to watch anything with her because she's beautiful and she's talented. But that movie, we did not need a heart of gold behind the evil person.
Right.
There seem to be so many movies, books, even like Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, where it's like, we can no longer draw a line or a statement that this person is a villain because now we're being mean. Yeah. Because we have to understand why it's okay that they're a mass murderer. Like Joker was in the comics, right. So I'm tying it back to the, that Joker, it's like, because, he was picked on when he was younger. So it's okay that, he killed a Robin with a sledgehammer. Sorry, spoiler alert from like 1989. And I think that's a dangerous trend and a slippery slope, because at some point you're not going to be able to separate the heroes from the villains, and you're going to get a whole lot of Homelanders. So, and The Boys is awesome, but if you really look at that, Homelander, who dresses the part of the good guy, is really the bad guy, and Carl Urban, who is like awesome, he looks the part of the bad guy, and sometimes he is, but he's really the good guy. So we gotta, I think us as storytellers have to be careful to keep it so that there's balance. Like everything needs, some balance, some understanding, maybe some sympathy, but not with the quantity that we've been seeing prevalently lately.
No affirmation. This is what I completely agree with you, John. You're right. I think to make a well-rounded character and a villain as well, give them a little bit of that, like, okay, I can see why.
Oh yeah,
never saying okay. Well,
I would never say never. And it also depends on what level of villainy you want to go to, because say like take a Selena Kyle, since you guys were talking Catwoman when I came in, if she may be able to justify stealing a jeweled necklace, okay, based upon whatever scenario. I'm just kind of throwing that one out there because it's done a million times. That I could see a writer being okay, and it'd be okay for a writer to justify it. However, mass murder, not so much. That wouldn't be a good one. Nuking a place and saying, "Oh, well, that's good," and have the audience go, "I can understand why he nuked that city. That's just fine." Well, no, it's not. So, Scott, I appreciate where you were going with that, saying, yeah, not that we could agree. In some cases we could. But again, I think it always kind of goes back to like that word that's big in my religion, the Jedi Sith order. Balance. It's got to have balance somewhere.
Got to have balance.
I always want the villain to get what's coming to them. Yet, would they learn? No. While you may think you're justified, while all these bad things happen, your decision is wrong. So in the end, you made the wrong decision. Yes, you were bullied or had a horrible whatever, which also makes for great heroes too. If they come from a horrible whatever to be a hero.
Yes. Yeah, you're talking the redemption path.
Yes.
Yeah.
And redemption paths are great. I love those stories because even the people who aspire to be shining stars of purity, they fall. Because we're all human. So a redemption story, love a redemption story.
Yeah.
And then again, spoiler alert. From like my high school and college days when Hal Jordan wiped out the whole Green Lantern Corps, and like he had like the rings. It was kind of like Thanos, in two hands. He went nuts and he like murdered lots of people. And then so we had the hero who fell, who came back, and it wasn't a clean path because a lot of people were not so forgiving. And I'm talking other characters in the DCU. So yeah, I do like a redemption story, but it's also so important for the writer, since we're talking craft with it, to make sure that if you're going to try to redeem a character, if that is your plan, that you do not push them so far, their actions so far, that they become irredeemable.
Agreed. And excellent observation on the current culture's moral relativism.
Yeah.
John, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
So you think
That's good.
Joker is redeemable?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
I don't think so either.
No. Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. No. Joker that beat Jason Todd to death. Well, apparently not death, or Ra's al Ghul's Lazarus Pit death, whatever it was. The one that I read when I was in junior high. No, and my parents wouldn't let me call the 1-900 number because it cost money. To cast the vote for death or not. No, and I don't think Joker is redeemable. I did think it was brilliant in that story. So that was Starlin, Aparo, and DiCarlo that did Death in the Family, where the Joker became, and he was named an ambassador to another country, and I won't say who because I know political stuff here, but in the comics it happened. So it was an enemy country, like in real life, of the United States. And so Batman couldn't touch him because this psycho murderer had diplomatic immunity. And he just killed his partner. Oh my God. So see, like that move, that was brilliant. Because now you've got this bad guy who is untouchable legally. Would Batman ever hold back from smashing his teeth in? I don't know. But yeah, so there's cool things that you could do with that. But I think since I was talking, sorry, I'm talking too much. But I missed you all. But yeah,
you
so
are talking too much, but I do have to take off.
Hey,
So I'm gonna. Now that I've got a third person to take my place. Hey, thank you,
calling me
John.
a third wheel.
thanks, Barb.
No, you're
Thank you,
taking my
Barb.
place. Good night, everyone.
No one can take your place, Barb.
Oh, thank God.
I want to comment on something that John said, and it really brought to mind. You know, you're talking about the Joker, and you're talking about, Scott was even mentioning how good writers will provide a sympathetic foundation to sometimes what the villain will do in the story. I agree with you guys that it should never overwhelm a sense of moral compass
Right.
in the story, because after all, we're doing, you know, I mean, people have different levels of the moral compass, but really we're doing myth, so we're doing good guys, bad guys, and you know, and every gray in between. But you would hope that the good guys win in the end, right? This was interesting to me that Nolan addressed this in the third Batman movie, when Selina is dancing with Bruce and she whispers in his ear that a storm is coming and all of you people who've been living so high on the hog are going to get what's coming to you, right? And I hear a lot of that in today's today's culture, you know, the sort of the envy of somebody has more than I have, right? Well, what I loved about the script that Nolan and his brother wrote for Dark Knight Rises is they take it to its very scary conclusion. They say, okay, you guys want to go to this like eat the rich thing? You want to really go and do this? Let's do this. And they bring Bane in and they actually do it. And they show how ugly that is. And they show that, you know what, you better be careful about wishing for moral relativism and wishing for this gray area. And yeah, somebody has more than you should be able to take it from them. Yeah, because look at Bane's army. Look what happens. Look at the football game. Look at, ultimately, he runs Gotham for, 6 months until Bruce gets back from the Middle East.
I haven't watched it yet. Spoiler, thank you.
You know what I'm saying? What? What?
Since I gave you guys spoiler alerts, I'm
from the 80s, yeah.
But no, point being that you know, going down that road where John even brought this up, where you know you start justifying all this behavior. It's like it's interesting if you're a clever writer. Okay, give the people what they think they want and show them what that would be. You know, like, okay, let's let the Joker do whatever he wants to do. Let's forgive him and let him out of jail and see what happens.
Kid, if I could throw in one last thing, Scott, before you cut for break, because I know you're going to cut for break soon. Right? No? Oh, okay. Okay. If I could throw in then with Dean going along with that, I saw something on Facebook a while ago, but it stuck with me, and it wasn't necessarily comic book related, but it's absolutely applicable here. It was just kind of one of the memes where it was just a single color box with the white text in it. It said, "You are the villain in someone else's story."
Oh.
And I just started thinking, oh, that ex-girlfriend and that ex-girlfriend and that ex-girlfriend. I'm like, oh, these poor girls. It's like, yeah, she hates me. I know she hates me. I know she hates me. Well, I hate her too. But that just really stuck with me because if we're going to talk about writing villains, and if we wanted to do it from a perspective that wasn't a paper cutout version of like your generic villain, generic villain volume A, whatever, and stick them in a story, writing it from that perspective, which they've done like a lot of times with Lex Luthor and Superman. I know they've kind of had that dynamic before. But whoever it is, even with the hero, you're the villain in someone else's story. So you take the best hero, take somebody completely altruistic, take a Captain America, and then he is seen as bad by who and why. And it doesn't have to be a Red Skull. It doesn't have to be, give me another big one.
Baron Zemo.
Full circle. I know John and Brent. Hi, Brent.
Hi, Brent.
Hey, welcome.
What's up, Brent?
We've already talked about, and we've already blotted our Wednesday Wham bingo box on Iron Man. Iron Man 3 half good, half bad movie in my estimation. But he is the villain. Tony Stark is he angers people, and he the mom, right, and he has to find some redemption in Iron Man 3. Where he's not a good guy to a lot of people, and a lot of people. He rubs a lot of people the wrong way. And in that movie, Tony Stark makes a big change from being a callous, careless playboy to being caring, to Pepper, to everybody he interacts with. And we talked about him because we have been talking about archetypes. Him as an archetype where he starts to mature and then move into that position where he can be a mentor, where he's not just self-centered and taking care of himself. Because it's
like a Han Solo.
What's that?
Like a Han Solo.
Exactly. Yep. There has to, in the good storytelling, there's usually got to be an incident. Tony's house gets blown up, right? And he doesn't lose everything, but he almost loses Pepper and all that sort of stuff. And so he has to make a change, and he has angered lots of people. Who's the villain? And it's the extremist
Mandarin.
But the
Caucasian Mandarin, yes.
Yeah. Ben Kingsley. But the other guy.
I haven't seen the movie yet.
You haven't seen Iron Man 3?
I really haven't. I'm not being funny this time. Yeah.
Gotta be careful with Sean.
It's okay. It's all good.
Iron Man 3 I like and don't like.
I heard about the Switch. I heard about why a lot of people weren't happy. I just never got around to watching it.
Yeah. So, anyways, but Dean, if you don't mind, everybody out there, Dean's been running the show for the weeks I was gone. He did a great job. I feel bad just muscling my way back in. So, Dean, with your permission, we've passed the halfway point. I want to remind everybody. Roland sent me a message today to remind everybody. He said, if I don't remind people, he will dock my pay, and I will have an official reprimand. Silverline, there's going to be a parcel, a large gaggle.
A slew, if you will?
A slew, a virtual or...
cornucopia.
A cornucopia of Silverliners.
A bunch.
There will be myriad Silverliners.
We will just... The Silverline Cup will overfloweth in Daytona Beach in September.
Oh, okay. I'm like, I don't know nothing
and
about this
19th,
cornucopia.
it's gonna be I don't know what the kids say.
It's gonna be so fetch.
If
that
that's
what
what
they
the
say
kids
now?
say, then
It
it's
wasn't
gonna
Mean
be
Girls. Gretchen
gonna be-
Wieners was trying to make that the thing, and
September 18th and 19th at the Volusia County Fairgrounds in Florida, which is very far away from me right now, but I will be there. I'm going to be there, as well as many, many, many others. Folks, go to the Daytona Beach Comic Book Convention Facebook page and their site. Get all the information, like, share, follow, subscribe, all those things. There's going to be 200 Silverline. Silverline is going to be there and giving away 250 Silverline posters to who? The first 250 attendees. Yes, and we're going to have Daytona Beach Comic Book Convention special edition comics, and I'm going to say specifically special edition Steam Patriots. Hey, and if you want to get your special edition Steam Patriots and you want to, I would say double its value, I can sign it for you. All right? And there's going to be random, and I'm not entirely sure, there's creator signature cards, random creator signature cards in the bags of every attendee. And I'm told, I'm going to have to get clarification of this, some of them are going to have my face on them. So that's exciting.
so
That's
those are
very-
the ones they'll want to trade away.
You're going to want to trade those in for John Medic the third.
Appreciated value? Yeah.
Look at that. He's a superhero, a veritable Tony Stark himself. And wow, there's Han Solo right there, right after him. Wow. Yeah.
Trade up for get your John Medic faces. We're going to have a whole bunch of Silverliners there, and some of you even have signature or autograph books. Some of you grabbed those a while ago. If you have that, bring that to Daytona Beach Comic Convention, and you can get those signed. It's going to be lots of fun. September 18th and 19th. I'm going to keep saying that. And be the first 250 people there, because you're going to get a poster.
Think about how cool it would be for those first 250 people that should probably start lining up now for entry to be able to, to get that poster signed
Yes.
by so many Silverline creators all at one shot.
Yeah.
That would be so awesome.
It's and we're running.
I'm looking forward to having writer's cramp after signing everything. It's going to be great. It'll be a great show.
Does it count as a signature if you get a stamp like this? Does that count?
Did you after the commercial on this? Yeah. I got a story for you about stamps.
Do we have a commercial?
Or
I can act one out.
Information.
Oh,
I don't want to take away from Daytona Beach because they're awesome and they deserve all the attention.
Just whisper it to me. So if on the screen they were cycling through some faces on the Silverline Facebook page. Hop over there after the show and scroll through. We got lots of the people that are going to be there. I don't even think it's all of the Silverliners that are going to be there, but we've got lots and lots of people, and the Daytona Beach site and their Facebook page as well has a great list of all the creators. And I know they need to update their website, but their Facebook page has a great list. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a great weekend. I don't want to take away from the archetype discussion. Brent, I know you just joined us. If you want to talk about archetypes, but this is the last, the ending segment, and I think this is where we kind of free for all it, right, Dean?
Absolutely.
I've missed the last 5 weeks, so I don't know what we've talked about. I'm going to give an update. I'm still one episode off from Falcon and Winter Soldier. I'm sorry. I know what happens. You can't avoid it. The internet, the Facebook lets you know everything. I have not watched Loki. I have seen Black Widow.
What if?
Has it started?
Today.
Ooh. Okay. Well, I'm gonna when we're done. That's my kids want to watch that. So my older, I've reared my children the way they should go, and they're all things comic book and Mystery Science Theater, which that's a big jump. November, Memphis in November.
Yes.
Wait. What happens in November? You guys are taking all of the air out of the internet.
All right, everybody. Memphis, the 12th through the 14th, Dean? 12th, 13th?
Comic and fantasy. I'll be updating as we get past Daytona.
Okay.
Just
I don't want
to tease.
Yeah.
We're going to say that mid-November, there's a show in Memphis, which I'll be attending, and certain other members of the Silverline crew. And the guest of honor is Joel Hodgson, none other than Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Yes.
So just so you guys know, I'll be expounding on that in future.
Yeah, we don't want to take away from Daytona Beach. Daytona Beach is coming up September 18th and 19th. So, can we talk about Black Widow? Is it too?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
If people wanted to watch it, they could have seen it in the theater. I've seen it in the theater twice. They could have watched it from the confines of their TV because it was on Disney Plus or whatever they're calling it. Disney Plus squared minus
Extra.
4 equals
Scarlett Johansson to the curb is what it equals, right? Because I've only seen the headlines. I've not read the details. I don't know what happened, but apparently Disney's parting ways with her.
She
Well, she's
filed
kind
a
of
lawsuit.
dead. Now's a
filed a
good
lawsuit.
time for both of them, I think.
Yeah.
From what I understand, the conflict began when she was under the impression, I don't know whether it was on paper or not when her contract, but she was under the impression that the film would be released in theaters exclusively first for a certain period of time and then be offered on streaming. And then when it was simultaneously released, theaters and streaming, and that affected the box office, it affected her bottom line, and she sued. And again, I don't know whether those expectations were supported by paperwork or not.
They were. I looked into this, and it makes a lot of sense. And it actually ties back to one of the things I was telling my students for years when we were talking about rights and property rights and making deals. Oftentimes, and Brent, you've worked Hollywood and stuff. You know this stuff too. You know, but you're closer to Hollywood than I am.
Yeah.
But sometimes people will negotiate a smaller fee up front to get a piece of the back end. So we don't know numbers, but it's entirely probable that Scarlett, when she negotiated the contract, took a smaller lump sum up front for her acting and her time, her investment, to get a percentage of the box office take. So when Disney made the move, pandemic caused, of course, but when they made the move to release its streaming as well, that was straight competition to the box office, thus reducing the potential for her box office take. Because I went and I saw it twice in the theater, but a lot of people might have gone, oh well, I'll just watch it at Disney, or I'll watch Disney at home, on Disney Plus. But not only now did she not get that person's, cut of the ticket, as earned per contract. It's not like she's getting a gift. That's part of her remuneration. That's like, her salary. Was that person sitting next to their husband, wife, 2 kids, brothers, sisters, cousins, nephews, hairdressers, baker? I mean, how many people were sitting in that living room watching it on one streaming service? So even if they cut in the number of people that paid to stream it, the number of streams that were paid to see it, let's say that does not take into account the entirety of the number of people who saw it. So Disney really set up this poor conflict where she definitely got not what was agreed to. And Bob Iger, who recently left the top spot at Disney, there was something that I read where he basically said, yeah, this new guy, he kind of really stepped in it. This was a bad move. So, they could have gone to her up front. They couldn't try to renegotiate it. They should have tried to renegotiate. Hell, if I were them, if I really wanted to put Black Widow on there as like a big thing to get people to come in and sign up for it, give her 100% of that take for, the first 30 days or whatever, and counter offer with something. But
I heard that the disappointing box office was so severe that they had to rethink the other simultaneous release ideas because I don't know what they're going to do with Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, but I'm thinking now that one's going to be theaters only for a time before they go to Disney Plus because they caught so much heat. And they lost a lot of money themselves off of this. I mean, you stop and think about it cost $200 million to make the movie, and I read somewhere that they spent $100 million to market it last year, and then they had to market it again this year because of COVID delays, etc. So, and then with the lawsuits and with everything they've had to do, so it's underperformed, for them.
Everything is really underperformed, and to go back to the whole COVID thing, and my girlfriend's sick of me blaming everything to the origins of COVID. It's like, oh, if that didn't happen, a lot of the world where we're at as of today, if COVID didn't happen, we wouldn't be here. Similarly, the Black Widow toys that were made, packaged, ready for distribution got shoved on the shelves last year without the movie to support them. So those didn't do well. Don't know if you've been to a Target lately, but Shang-Chi, or how did you pronounce it, Dean? You're probably doing it better.
Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Those toys have been languishing. They have peg warming because nobody cares. And why does nobody care? Because the average kid has no clue who these characters are. Nope. In 6 months when the movie comes out, they might go, oh my God, that's the coolest one ever. That's the coolest star ever. I want to be just like him or her, because there are female figures too. I don't know all the characters yet. But they've already been clearance down for like the $20 figures to like $7 because they've been sitting and sitting and sitting because the window isn't aligning because of COVID, which threw off every schedule, and places can't hold this inventory in a warehouse that they're paying. And why are you going to have this stuff sitting collecting dust in a warehouse? And it's a horrible little cycle.
Well, I know this is Wednesday, last 10 minutes or so free for all, but with this upcoming gigantic movie for Warner Brothers, with Dune coming up, right? Have they released the toys yet or not? Or are they holding them?
I've not seen them, and I'm in
Okay,
toy
they're
aisles
holding.
a couple times a week.
Okay.
I'm like a giant third grader.
Okay. Yeah, we knew that, but we love you anyway.
Yeah.
Because of that. But no, but I really think if they play that one right, if DC / Warner Brothers plays Dune correctly, that's their new Lord of the Rings franchise right there. That's it.
It could be. It should be.
They got to do something because Matt Reeves' Batman looks terrible.
You know what? You know what would nothing would make me happier if I walked into the theater with my paid ticket to watch Dune, and all of a sudden, Virginia Madsen's on the screen. It was Sting, and Patrick Stewart, and Kyle MacLachlan, and I would just be like, oh.
I think the rest of the theater would then actually rise up and destroy you. So
I'm trying to think of, there was a movie. So I was dating a girl, so I know who I was dating. So this would have been like in the late 90s to early 2000s. And we went to see like, a movie for somebody in their 20s. I don't remember what it was, but the lights go down, the previews start. We're like, these previews are kind of silly. And they started playing the Pokemon movie.
No.
And yes. So Google when the Pokemon movie came out. Somebody please and throw it in the chat. Find out when the Pokemon movie was. But yeah, so it like literally we got like 15 minutes of the Pokemon movie. And we're all like, what the heck? The whole theater did kind of go crazy on the way out. They had somebody at the door giving you like free pass. And I'm dying to know what we went to go see. But I'm gonna check out Pokemon release date.
I did intentionally go to the theater to see that one. That's when they released Mewtwo, I believe.
Okay, so November 12th, 1999.
Yes, okay.
So
that's right around Episode 1, Star Wars Episode 1 era, right? 99?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I know that was not what we went to see that night.
That's the first midnight movie that I saw.
Was it?
Oh, man.
If anybody wants to give me thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, I have an untorn 12:01 a.m. Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace ticket. It's going to be worth, I know it's going to be worth a lot. So if someone wants to send me about $10,000 now, I mean, it's going to be.
All right. So kids,
huh?
so check this out. So I Googled what released that same weekend because I was like big on releases. Mm-hmm. It's down to one of two of these. Okay. One of them has a wonderful like Dean tie-in here. Because it could have been James Bond, The World Is Not Enough.
Oh, yeah. I like that one.
But,
yeah,
but I don't think that was it. Picture this. You are ready to go and witness the next installment of a Kevin Smith film. Here comes Ben Affleck and Matt Damon in Dogma. And you have 15 minutes of the Pokemon movie.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was Dogma that we went to go see.
I'd go with Pokemon. I'm sorry, John. I'm sorry.
Oh, come on. That was an all-star cast.
I never.
So was Mars Attacks.
Ack. Oh, my kid hates when I still say ack.
Hey, it could have been worse. It could have been episode 8. So just throwing that out there.
I was actually doing some stuff with 8 today. I was watching some clips and everything. There is so much about episode 8 I love. Dean, if you and I sat down over like a beer or a Diet Coke or something, I could convince you to love parts of it. And we should do that for a different night. But what's that?
I'm with you. I think it was unfairly misaligned.
Oh.
Maligned. I think that's what you're looking for.
Misaligned.
Maligned. You already had a couple of the beers. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's put it this way. Everybody. Okay. Is it too early to do Mandalorian spoilers?
No, we've all seen Mandalorian.
Okay, so Mandalorian Season 2, everybody got what they want. We got badass Luke Skywalker.
Yes!
In a scene that very much paralleled the Darth Vader scene at the end of Rogue One.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was like the Jedi equivalent, and it was awesome. Everybody was happy except for my kid, who was pissed off because he wanted to be Ezra Bridger from Rebels, because that's his Star Wars love. I totally get it. I was like, that would have been cool too, but everybody's like, yes, this is the Luke we wanted. How many of us, and I'm going to talk from my personal experience too, but how many of us, when we're in our 20s, like Luke was in his 20s, everybody's like looking at 20s, early 30s, he's the perfect Jedi and he's going to reestablish the order. How many of our lives actually went the route we thought they were going to in the 20s and 30s? I'm 48. Did I think I was going to be a single dad at 48? Did I think that a 16-year relationship was going to implode? And I come home one day and no kid and no girl. So everybody's life veers places that we don't expect it to be. And most often, those veers may not be so great. So as a little bit older fan, I was 4 when the original came out, and I consumed that like candy. When Luke's life didn't go the way that everybody thought it should, would, could, because he was the Jedi, that we put up there as like the paragon. I got it, and sometimes it's just like some things just go so bad and you feel like you screwed up so bad. You're like, I'm just out of here. I'm not dealing with people anymore. And so he goes off to Octu. I totally get it. It's like, I could understand that. I can understand how somebody would just be like, okay, I messed up so bad. I'm just out of here, so I can't do it again. And that's even kind of what he told Rey, is like, I've only seen this power once before. I didn't pay attention then. I'm terrified now. I'm never going to train again. Thank God he did. Daisy Ridley, awesome. Much respect for her. But, so that whole Luke arc, I thought that was a great arc. And, it's not, Dean, to tie it back to what you were saying earlier with storytelling. What Luke had in 8, from the very edge of 7, but really the beginning of 8 with the lightsaber and, tossing it, he kind of had a redemption arc of his own, but it was the most important kind of redemption arc. It was the self-redemption arc. And that I thought was really, really cool. Because even like when he was so knocked down and he just, pulled away from everything, he saw that he needed to be that light and came back. And I don't want to go to the Chumbawamba tub thumping reference, but I will. Remember the song from the 90s? I get knocked down.
Luke got knocked down.
I thought you were talking about when the Ewoks at the end of Return of the Jedi, which I
love the original until they changed it. But no. I was going to tub something on that one. So so there were very much parts of 8 that I very much loved. I loved the surreal stuff in the cave with Rey. I loved Rey's arc. I loved the humor. The chase scene in space was kind of dumb. I didn't like that part. People who want to, tear that one down, I'm kind of with you on that one. But I think that there were good parts to 8. I really wish that they had one person write the overarching story for, 7, 8, 9. So there was a consistent story, not the handoff approach that they took. I think that would have been for a better trilogy overall, but I think there were some good parts in there.
Didn't J.J. Abrams say it might have been a good idea to have a plan? Wasn't that like paraphrasing?
Well, yeah. From what I read, that they sort of gave Rian Johnson a little bit too much freedom, and Kathleen Kennedy is credited for just giving him carte blanche to do whatever. And, his take is his take, and you know what? Different creators have different views on things. I think if we all had a chance to read JJ's outline for his versions of 8 and 9, we probably would have enjoyed those, I think, a lot better. But, it's okay. It is what it is. He would have
come from it from a completely different standpoint. And I love J.J. Abrams since 2001 with Alias. That's where I first learned. Scott, was that like a naughty face about Alias? Was that like are you not a Sidney Bristow fan? I'm
Oh
like,
goodness, with the hair. So
but yeah, I love JJ. I always
It's
said
like-
in JJ we trust.
it's like it's good for a while, but it seems like, and I don't know the details. Like in Alias was good, and then it wasn't. Lost was good, and then it wasn't.
Some stories, and genres even, like,
Yeah.
kind of like, and unfortunately, one of the things like Sniper and Rook, my book, since you said we could talk our properties,
Go for it.
They're covert government operatives, spy stuff. Every spy storyline, TV show, book, whatever, it does run its course.
Wait a minute. Are you saying James Bond? Are you saying Die Another Day with Pierce Brosnan was jumping any shark? Are you saying
I love Pierce Brosnan, as a matter of fact. I own
I
all of
thought Die
Remington
Another Day
Steel
was
on
very much
DVD.
maligned or dumped on.
No,
Die
but,
Another Day is one of my most hated James Bond movies. I'm sorry.
but
Continue.
More
no,
than
but with a lot,
Moonraker.
with the spy stuff. Well, okay, even Moonraker. Okay, Moonraker. Would you call that traditional spy?
No, it's dumb.
Unless it gets
It's
re-envisioned
traditionally
somehow, or gets to run long enough that it kind of recycles.
That's
For a new generation. That's why when I conceived Sniper and Rook as covert government operatives, I knew, and they predated Alias, by the way. Okay, so Alias, we saw like the 5 years, and it petered out. One of the best TV shows in the last 10 years on FX, one of the Fox stations, The Americans, which was based upon real life scenarios where Soviets had undercover spies living as Americans. We just talked Black Widow. Okay, like that opening scene, that stuff was real. That stuff happened in the 80s, not so much the 90s. I learned about that stuff in the 80s because my mom watched General Hospital. And I'm not joking. No. And they had like the World Security Bureau with Frisco Jones, and you had who played the White Queen in the Gen X movie in the 80s that was straight on TV. Oh my God, one of the most beautiful women ever. Finola Hughes. And some other people. Anyway, so there was like a story about a guy, who was a doctor. Grant Putnam was actually Grant Andrews because he was replaced by a guy who had surgery to look like him, who was actually like a Soviet agent. So like I grew up on this stuff. And actually when I talk about like some of my earliest influences in the beginning of Sniper and Rook collection, which is available at indieplanet.com.
Yes, it is.
Indieplanet.com.
Yes.
I do even reference that in there as a crazy thing. So what we see in Black Widow did happen. There were, they were called illegals. Illegals all across the U.S. living as Americans. So I forget the gentleman who created the TV show, but that lasted 5 seasons. We had Alias that kind of crashed and burned after 5 seasons. There was one TV show that only made it 1 season, and that made me so sad. Had Scott Foley and a young lady whose name I forget that was on Walking Dead, left for a season, came back. I think her character might have been called Maggie. I could be wrong because I haven't watched Walking Dead. But there was a show that was on ABC called Whiskey Cavalier. That was awesome. And I watched that. I'm like, that's like if Sniper and Rook was a TV show, that's how it would feel. It lasted a season. Moonlighting. Oh my God. Moonlighting was one of the earliest influences on my stuff too. What did that last? 5 seasons. Remington Steele. 5 seasons. So there are...
Remington Steele is what kept Pierce Brosnan. That's why Timothy Dalton is James Bond.
From being and that is kind of good for me because Dalton and Brosnan are 2 of my favorite Bonds.
Do you like Timothy Dalton? Interesting.
I do.
I don't dislike him, but I mean, he's no George Lazenby.
Let's put it this way. Dean, I don't remember if we had this talk before. My favorite Bond ever is Roger Moore playing James Bond in the Cannonball Run.
Okay, I can see it.
Wow.
So, if any of
I
you
can
ever
see
saw Cannonball Run, you know,
Of course.
Cannonball
one of the
Run.
greatest movies of all time. So you have Roger Moore, who's, he's playing being a spy, and his like own mother is like, you're no spy. He's like, mother, I will have to kill you. And so it was just so like
It's a great farce. A lot of fun.
It was great. It was so awesome for him to be able to play it that way.
Cannonball
But
Run.
yeah, so Roger Moore fills out my other third favorite Bond, including his true Bond roles. I mean, those are my three favorites.
Yeah.
I gotta make a plug for a Western New Yorker, Wyoming, New York. Brock Yates helped write or co-wrote the screenplay for Cannonball Run and Smokey and the Bandit. Brock Yates, he's the guy. The Cannonball Run was created by him. That drive across the country, which I did not do. Took me almost a week. Well, a month really. Hey, it is 9:36 on the East Coast.
Wow.
We never really even said whether we enjoyed Black Widow. We went to Black Widow, we went to Scarlett Johansson, we went to lawsuits, and then we went, which is fine, which is what we do because it was a second half free for all, which I absolutely love. John,
I was hoping I didn't derail anything.
you did,
Oh,
but
no,
it's fine. It's what we do.
That's what we do.
If there's a rail, if there is any rail, we have dynamite on it and we blow it up, cartoon style, and then we just go off in our own direction.
Scott, let me know when I could speak. I'm not being rude. I have something I want to say about Widow, but I know I've kind of been monopolizing. So when it's time, tell me to go because I want to tie that into something else. But
we're wrapping up here, right, Dean? This is
we're wrapping up the show.
I didn't like it. I'm sorry, everybody. I did not like Black Widow, and Black Widow has been one of my favorite characters in the MCU the entire time. And I was really, really, really excited about this movie. So that probably compounds and adds to my disappointment. I had my expectations way up here because I loved the character. I didn't like the movie. I thought it was too hokey. I thought it was disjointed. I didn't care about anybody enough. And there's more. I wanted to like it. I wanted to love it. I was really looking forward to it. So that's my take. We can talk about it more, but I know. So John or Dean, Brent, I don't know. You're nodding. I don't know if you had anything to throw in.
Yeah, I'll go on that. I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I didn't love it.
Entertaining.
It had its moments.
Mm.
We mentioned this a week or two ago. A lot of the scenarios were not terribly well set up, and as a result, the story didn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Having said that, I actually really enjoyed Florence Pugh. I thought she was great. I'm really excited to see where she goes with that. And I don't know. There was some reasonably good humor in it, and Marvel, at least they can have that. It's almost like humor is kind of a crutch for Marvel if they're not slinging full thrusters on the story.
Yeah,
and I kind of appreciate that because then you have DC where they don't rely on humor; they almost rely on darkness, and people just get pissed.
Yeah.
So, Black Widow, I give it 3.5 out of 5, and I think I was being kind. So
yeah, I agree with you, Brent. We covered this again in an earlier show, Scott. So I'm going to be very brief, but I felt that again entertaining, but it would have worked better to keep it on a smaller scale and not do the whole world in the balance, epic story where she's jumping out of disintegrating satellites and surviving impossibly every 5 minutes of Act 3. So basically, just if they had just made it the dysfunctional family drama and done it real scaled down like a Daredevil type, that would have been outstanding. I think just to keep it lean and character driven with some great stunts and great fight scenes, like Daredevil. I think that would have been a better approach. But it was entertaining. I'm with Brent. Maybe I give it 3 out of 5 for entertainment purposes.
John, you have big things to say.
All right, so I'm copiously taking down notes so I don't forget because a bunch of things dovetail together. So Florence Pugh, totally agree. Stole the show. She was fantastic. When she did the landing and she's like, "Ah, gross,"
Yeah.
Yeah.
theater, blew up. That was great. She, I love the fact I've never seen her in anything before.
She
So
was in
I was,
Midsommar.
Oh,
I was
Midsommar.
completely walking in with no association
Mm-hmm.
of her to any other character. And I think that's a danger that we always have when we go to watch a movie, because it's so and so as Batman or whatever. I didn't know anything about her,
The
so
Human
I got
Torch
to.
is Captain America.
Oh yeah. Chris Evans is like the best cap ever, though.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I loved being able to just experience her in that role because she knocked it out of the park. She was great. One of the artists that's worked on Sniper and Rook that's available at indieplanet.com did a pinup for me, a piece for me a bunch of years ago. So I actually have this picture, and I can prove it's like 6 years old now, where I had Captain America in the black and white uniform that U.S. Agent wore when he was the captain, because that's my favorite comic uniform of all time, and Lady Deadpool, because she's kind of hot, fighting my two favorite Marvel villains, which have now both been destroyed by the MCU in the last year.
Ooh.
One being Flag Smasher, the original Flag Smasher that came out when I was in junior high. So we're talking before 87, because that's when I graduated junior high. Being migrated into the Flag Smashers. I loved the original character. I didn't necessarily like the adaptation on how it went, and but so that went. And then Taskmaster getting completely ruined in Black Widow, I hated that because that's my other all-time favorite Marvel character.
That wasn't so great.
No, it wasn't. And so, spoiler alert for G.I. Joe Snake Eyes Origin, in case anybody plans on seeing that. I don't know why you would. But I did see that in the theater as well because my best friend wanted to go see it. So I'm like, fine, we'll go see it. And we did a double feature. That's how I saw Widow the second time. Snake Eyes Origin. Snake Eyes is, of course, like, the number one G.I. Joe character. Completely unlikable. He's a complete jerk in this movie. Selfish, self-centered. He's just an ass. So at the end of the movie, you dislike him as much as you did at the beginning of the movie. That's not a good origin film. But tying that into Black Widow, when they had the Taskmaster reveal and the mask came off, I'm like, that's what Snake Eyes looks like from the Marvel comics back in the day, because of course he had the whole fuselage blow up in his face when he was trying to save Scarlet, and he had the massive stuff and the big eye. When I saw the Taskmaster reveal, that was just wah, wah. That was the first thing that came to my mind. I'm like, that looks like Snake Eyes, and that's not the kind of feel that you should have. And Dean, how you were talking about that third act about the blow up with the Red Room, you're absolutely right on all that. The big floating city in the sky, what's his Bespin? I totally agree with you on that whole part. I love the family feel. I love that interaction. I wanted more of that. And I felt happy with the amount that I got. That other part on the end, but that scene part, I could do some fighting. There's still some cutesy family stuff in there. My jaw dropped, and I loved when Scarlet, and then later Scarlet's mom from the movie, was in the original George Perez version of the Black Widow costume with the leather and the gold.
Yeah,
that was a fanboy moment come true. So I loved that. But I agree with you on the other stuff. And the last thing that really did this one did irk me. So just so I don't sound like a bleeding fanboy going, everything's perfect. The song choice. Okay, so if this was supposed to be set in the 90s, the little girl's favorite song was American Pie. Okay, in the 90s, I was in college or teaching for the beginning. Okay, that's when we had tub thumping from Chumbawamba on. That's when we had my theme song from college, Self Esteem by The Offspring. All right, we didn't have that playing on the radio again and again, or even a cassette. So sometimes Marvel does this stuff, and because Guardians of the Galaxy had such a great applicable soundtrack, it seems like they try to tie in period pieces of music, but that piece was 2 decades out of date. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, was jarring, especially in the beginning of the film.
Good
What's funny
observation.
about that scene too, and I actually mentioned this a couple weeks ago, I loved the family dynamic, except that it was not real. It didn't make any real sense. The beginning of the movie was they were pretending to be a family, and then they all split up, and then the two daughters lost touch with each other. Mom and dad disappeared, and then suddenly they're all back together again. And it's like they're trying to pretend that they're a family, and it doesn't make any logical sense. And so when Florence Pugh goes in the other room and is basically moaning about the fact, legitimately, that, you guys disappeared on me, what's up? And he starts singing that song, and I suddenly had images of Batman saying, "Why did you say that name?" It made as much sense as him singing American Pie. And so she's like, "Oh, you're right, everything's fine." Blah blah blah. That's total movie nonsense. So
the only way I was able to explain her away on that one, obviously the mom and the dad knew. What? Not now. Go away. The mom and the dad. My kid's staring at me. Why are you staring at me? Okay. Anyway, so the mom and the dad knew that it wasn't real. Natasha knew it wasn't real, but the little girl was little enough that she probably didn't know any better at that point. She would have gotten it later on. And so you're absolutely right, Brent, that she probably would have had different emotions at that point. So like at least when they were playing it when they were young, I could see it. I got it. But you're right on the later part. I'll give you that.
yeah. Oh well.
Hey, gang. It's 9:47 Eastern. Dean, this is when we start wrapping up, isn't it? Yeah.
This is when we start wrapping up. We remind everyone where they can find great Silverline stuff.
Oh, my goodness.
.com, silverlinecomics.com, Silverline Comics.
Silverlinecomics.com. They have so many great places, so many choices. They can also go to Facebook and check out all of our fun posts. We've got the folks managing our social media right now have been doing a fantastic job for like the past forever, because you want to see artwork from our comics, you want to see teasers from what's coming up, you want to see stuff from Daytona Beach Comic Book Convention that's coming up September 18th and 19th. I recommend, I demand all of our viewers go there and they like, subscribe, follow, all those things. We have a YouTube channel. We have Facebook. We're on Instagram. We are all over the place. Folks, you can also go to indieplanet.com, and I believe it's /Silverline Comics, or it might just be /Silverline. Either way, all of our titles are there. Almost all of our titles are there. You need to stock up. And coming up September 18th and 19th, Daytona Beach Comic Book Convention, you're going to get some exclusive content. The first 250 people there are going to get Silverline posters. And you guys can come into that convention and you're going to see so many Silverliners. You can get those posters signed. There's going to be signature cards. You are going to get to say, hey, you're going to get to meet us. We're going to get to greet you. It's a meet. It's a greet. It's a say hello. We're gonna have comic books. We're gonna be signing stuff. We're gonna be talking. You can get to know almost. I mean, like tons of our creators and our creatives from Silverline. That is coming up. So thank you, Daytona Beach Comic Book Convention, for your support of Silverline. Dean, thank you for being at the helm while I was on my jaunt. I don't know if I feel worthy of taking back over. Dean's been doing such a good job. That's the problem with you leave your workplace for a moment and somebody steps in and does a better job than you. John, Brent, thank you for joining us. Barb out there, we know you had to bounce a little early. Thank you so much. What am I forgetting? Hey folks, we all have our social media profiles. SilverlineComics.com. We're all on there too. We love if you like, follow, share, subscribe to all of the things we've got going on. We've got more titles coming. Silverline is constantly growing, expanding. Our story worlds are creating. Everybody out there who supported the most recent Kickstarter campaign, thank you. Those are being fulfilled. Takes a little while for Kickstarter to finalize things. Roland works. Somehow he has a magical time warp where he works like 27 hours a day. The man never sleeps. He's always getting work done. Those of you who back the comic book, back to the campaign, you'll be getting your rewards soon, very soon. And I think that's it. This has been Wednesday Wham. This has been fun. We have a Tuesday show. We have a Sunday show. Go support those. We have a podcast as well. We've got it all. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you. And make mine Silverline.
Till next week, make mine Silverline. Hey, everybody.
Make mine
Have a good night.
Silverline.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.